So Parsha Vayeishev, we know the story, this incredibly divergent view of what was really going on. Yosef, in his maybe naive sincerity, the going to the father, creating the resentment, creating the kinna, the brothers finally deciding Visnaknu Pasuk Yudches Visnaklu Oso Lahamiso. When they saw Yosef coming from afar, before he actually reached them, Visnaknu Olov Lahamiso. So the famous Sephorna here that really should be gone over and internalized, because certainly the message is profound, and he makes the basic point. This is a lot of people have bothered. How was it shaykh Yosef to be seen by his brothers this way? Yosef was a tzaddik, and he was a tzaddik, and they were tzaddikim as well. But I guess he doesn't go through the subtleties of what it was that contributed to their point of view. But he's very, very clear that indeed the impression that the brothers had of Yosef was one that justified their response. It wasn't some that they're acting out of just base jealousy, acting out of resentment. Yosef being Yaakov's favorite, it wasn't about that. It was a view that his dreams and his whole direction, what he was doing and where he was trying to go, was in a direction of being a rodef. They saw him and they interpreted those dreams as such that these were dreams and these were potential prophecies, or at least they weren't maybe in Yosef's head, but this is what the brothers resented and objected to, is that you're out to kill us, you're out to destroy us, you're out to maneuver yourself in a position where you're the one to inherit Yaakov, and we are going to be boxed out, both possibly in this world or the next world, or both, says the Sephorna. And therefore, they came to an absolute clear decision in terms of the psak halacha, and so in other words, on that level, just in terms of sort of couching it in a perspective of them not acting just out of base jealousy. Clearly, he lays down the foundation that this was what they were motivated by. They had this clear. They were able to sleep at night, so to speak, at least until ultimately things unraveled in a different direction and made them realize their mistake. And the Sephorna says, right? This sort of allows us to balance the fact that these are the shiftei kah whose names are on the choshen. They're on the breastplate of the Kohen Gadol. And yet, how is it? And even incredibly, he points out that even when they realized, when they had to leave Shimon behind, and they needed to sort of recognize that something was wrong. Why is all this negative things happening to us? Next week's Parsha Miketz, when they're stuck in Mitzrayim, and then Yosef pulls these manipulations to really put them in a tough spot. Even when you listen to their words, he says, okay, they never regretted the actual sale. Even when they said, when they recognized that this is HaKadosh Baruch who's doing this, which itself tells you so much about their status, their level, and their position in life. If something goes wrong, and right away you can look back to an event many years later and say, this is why it happened. We're sinners, and HaKadosh Baruch who's punishing us. For what sin? Well, they didn't say that the sin was because of the mechira, or misasai, or because they killed him, assuming that maybe he didn't survive. They didn't know if he survived. But rather, what did they say? But rather, they attributed their sin to all of this incredibly difficult, problematic positions that they were in. What did they say? They said they were sinners because of their achzarius when they were called out, when Yosef called out to them and said, you can't do this, I'm your brother, you can't do this to me. Okay, and they said there was Achzorius. We didn't listen to that call. And therefore, so and therefore, in other words, even they were so convinced that they were right. They were so convinced that they were doing the right thing. But my brother called out to me, and we didn't listen. Right? That's what they said in next week's parsha about Zerusenu. There was the Achzorius that we didn't respond. So you stop and you think about this. What the Sephron is saying. It so reminds us, that again we're so much sort of focused on big picture items, and we very often look at the decisions that we make. Is it right or is it wrong? And yet we don't necessarily look into the way we do it and the feelings that we have behind it, and the development of the Midos that we have on a daily basis in terms of are we where we need to be? That we see that much more as a sort of small issue. Do we have sensitivity? Are we brazen? Are we in any way arrogant or any way callous to situations? If I could become better, that's nice, but we don't see that as being necessarily so critical. But here you see that they attributed they were so sure. But so okay, if you're so sure you did the right thing, so what's your problem? Well, the problem is the Achzorius. The problem is but did we have enough compassion? Do we have enough feeling behind the act that we did? Is that something that we manifested in this whole process of the sale of Yosef? And clearly they attributed that sin that got him into this incredibly horrific situation to what? To the lack of sensitivity, of the Achzorius. He called out to us. We didn't listen. Well, what do you mean you didn't listen? You were doing the right thing. Well, but we how could we do this? How could we not respond? How could we let the calls, our brother's call, not move us? And somehow we weren't moved. And you can debate the issue. It's interesting discussion one could have. Is a Sephron saying that we should have the Achzorius that we had didn't. We just didn't feel it properly. We did the right thing, and we should have done the right thing, and we should have had more of a sensitivity about it. Or is the Sephron saying that the lack of Achzorius should have allowed us, had we not had the Achzorius, we would have said, I can't do it this way. My decision's right, but I can't sell my brother, put my brother in a pit, and let me leave my brother in that situation because of the strong negative feelings it would develop within me. So you can debate that. There's Sephron here, Sephron next week's parsha. It's an interesting discussion that one can have in terms of how far the Sephron goes in terms of this Achzorius. But clearly the root of the sin is Achzorius. The root of the sin is not the decision. The decision was the right decision. He was deemed to be a rodef, and there is no taina at this point that they made a mistake in that regard. So why did all this happen? Well, because of Achzorius. So it's another incredible message for us in terms of what we have to focus in on. Obviously, big things are big things, and we can't ignore them. Obviously the actions are super important, but this is again where the Midos come in, and the focus on the Midos, the sensitivity, the working on how we respond to situations, the cost that we might manifest in given situations, the statements that we might make, or the callousness that we might manifest when we're feeling attacked and we're feeling that things are not going my way, and you're not responding, you're not being sensitive to situations. These are not small things. These are things that the Shiftei Kah understood, that we're in this mess. How do we get into this really serious mess? We have to leave one of our brothers behind. We have to go back and get Binyamin and tell Yosef, tell our father Yaakov that we have to bring Binyamin down to Mitzrayim to face this viceroy. I mean, these are literally gut-wrenching and life-changing situations that are so horrific that it's hard to imagine how they dealt with it and how they managed it. And why did this all happen? They understood kochos nefesh. They understood the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu looks at the world. Achzorius. If you don't have that sensitivity, this is why this could happen. So Bez Hashem, it's certainly a great chizuk for us to develop that sensitivity, to work on ourselves constantly, Bez Hashem, and that's what's go.